everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of my reviews of Junji Ito's Fragments of Aura. Now, before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of everything and actually start discussing everything, a bit of tips and tricks that I was, told about by some of my subscribers. Will not name you, but you know who you are. Number one, I actually do have a bit of housekeeping stuff that I would like to recommend. For one, there are a few series of animes that are based off the Junji Ito stories. Now I was wondering if y'all would actually like to see that in the future. If not, let me know. If so, let me know. That's what the comments are for, just let me know. Hit that bell, smash that like, subscribe, like the video. Already said like, forget about it. Comment, that's what I want. I want to know. I want to know what you're thinking. If you let me know, then I'll do it. That's all this series is at the end of the day, is just let me know and I'll try to do it. Now, as a warning to those who don't want to know the basic summary of the story that I'll be covering today, today's story is Junji Ito's Wooden Spirit. And as a spoiler warning, you can skip to here to just get the review and my ending summaries of random things. Now, on to the summary of the actual story of Wooden Spirit. Now, after their home had been nominated for a prestigious award, being known as a cultural property by the Japanese government, Megumi and her father had, started cleaning up on their house, getting it prepared for tour groups, when out of nowhere, a strange knock at the door happens. It is too early for the tour groups to actually start coming, so they're a bit scared. They're a bit, it could be like, the mailman, Megumi goes and checks the door. And at the door is a young woman who introduced herself as Manami. Manami, Megumi. Let's see how long it takes until I actually screw those names up. And we're in the spot where you don't know what's going on. But we'll get to that. Megumi tells her that she needs to come back later with the tour group, like you're supposed to. Manami then replies, well, I'm a architecture student studying for architecture, and I'm looking to, look at your house to, get some inspiration for studies and stuff like that. Well, Megumi straight up says, you gotta come with the tour group. Her dad butts in for, I'm assuming, because he's very prideful of the house, because he's lived there his whole life, and his daughter was born and raised there, stuff like that. But there's a small bit of my head, and you will see it later as well, that says that it's not just that he thinks that she loves his house. He kind of looks at her and goes, she looks pretty good. I'm divorced. I'm single. Let's see what happens. I hope he wasn't, because he's like maybe 50 and this woman is maybe mid-20s, which is a little weird, but I digress for anyone who is that's their thing. Moving on, we get to one of my favorite parts. He gives her a tour. And in the tour, she makes a note of how sexy the floor is and how the joist of the building has a very masculine air to it. I don't know how an inanimate object has those features, but it would seem that she is one of the kind of people that is objectum sexual. She has objectum sexuality, which means that she is sexually attracted to objects, such as buildings, houses in this case, and other small knickknacks and baubles and stuff like that. In researching this, because I had to know what it was, because I wanted to, sound a bit more professional in the idea of like, what is going on here? In looking it up, the first link that I had was, let it be known it was a Reddit link, but the first thing was, are you one of those freaks that are attracted to objects? I hope not. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Moving on. That myself, I feel like, is the most foreshadowing bit of this story, is a random link while researching. Immaculate. Either way, I digress in saying that I don't feel like anyone who is attracted to objects is weird. I just feel like somebody's out to get you. It's not me. I hope not. Moving on. Well, she's kind of weird, but she eventually asks if she can stay for 3 months. This is her first time ever meeting these people, and let alone, there is no notification that they are offering room and board for their house. She just says, hey, let me stay here for 3 months, and I'll cook and clean for you. The dad goes, you really twisted my arm here, but... And then later on that night, he tells it to Megami, which she is distraught, which I would be as well, because that makes no sense. You've just met this person, and you're letting them stay in your home. If it was like, you've got a few, like, altercations under your belt with these people, I can understand that makes more sense of like, yeah, okay, yeah, you can stay here like a month or so. Day 1. Stays for 3 months. A little weird. Either way, Manami comes back with a absolute immaculate feast that she prepares for both Megumi and Megami's father, which blows both of their minds, and it's like kind of like for the rest of the story, it's kind of like a bit of a montage of like her doing a bunch of things, and Megami actually points out that she done so much that we should have probably paid her. Like, just living here was not enough for like compensation. And then Megami also points out the fact that she kind of hopes that her dad would end up just marrying her. But apparently the dad had the same idea, because about, I'm guessing 3 months, I would assume 3 months, to like make me feel better about this family. But it's like 4 different panels, and then it's like they're married. So it could be anywhere from like 4 days since they just met to 3 months, which I kind of assume. Hopefully it's more than 3 months. That's just the short end of like I would be alright with it now. Moving on from that, I guess, is she starts living there, and Megami brings up what are y'all gonna go on a honeymoon? Because that'd be really nice for y'all, going on a nice little trip for, y'all are married, might as well go out and have fun. Manami then points out that she would rather stay at home because she likes the house. Either way, they stay home. And then after a while of them being married, Megami finds her dad in a kind of depressive state, which he is kind of like sitting alone in the house, just kind of looking around at stuff. And he, for the first time that you ever see this, he doubts if the house is even worthy of being a national cultural property, which, really fun research bit that I did for it, that is actually a thing in Japan. There's their logo. I don't know what you'll do with that information, but yeah, that is the thing where they assign cultural properties. There's a thing for it in the US, but it's like, it's got to be at least 50 years old, and then there's got to be like a historical thing with it, because if there's not, it kinda, loses its, like, it's not important. If your house is just 50 years old, that doesn't mean anything. You've lived there 50 years, that's cool. But did someone important live there? I think not. Either way, he starts questioning it, which is insane for this man, because his whole thing, his whole shtick is the house is his pride and joy. He was born and raised there, and his daughter actually brings up that point. What are you talking about? This is a historical cultural property. We have, like, our house is more important than us at this point. I was born and raised here. You were born and raised here. Your grandparents were around here. Like, all that kind of stuff. And her dad just kind of looks down at the ground and then looks around and says, I don't know, it just feels weird. The house isn't right anymore to him. In saying that, Megumi then goes upstairs to find her now stepmom, Manami. And in finding her, she is greeted by I can't show it, so it's not going to be up here, but an interesting sight of her getting it on with the house, with the room that she's in. Being over, kissing the floor. It's a little strange, but that's not the strangest bit of what happens in the whole page. If you want to see it, you gotta read it. For those people out there that want to see that, you can. I'm not gonna show it though. Moving on from that point, that night, Megumi gets in bed and she hears a bunch of strange noises and, reflects on the day. Man, my stepmom's weird. Like, why would you do that with the building? That's weird. That's strange. You don't do that. She's weird. But she's awoken by a bunch of loud rackets and, she goes downstairs and her first thought is, it's an earthquake. Obvious answer, yeah, it's an earthquake. And she goes downstairs to find her dad just furiously scrubbing the floor. Megumi looks down at what her father is furiously trying to scrape off the floor, and he calls it graffiti. But after furiously scrubbing at it for a bit, it turns out that it is in fact a part of the building now. Those look horrendous. They don't look like anything that you would want to see at a museum-like place that you would be going to. And as such, it is a very smart play that they actually do, and they end up getting out of there. Usually most of the time people stay a little bit. But on their flee from the building, they look up at the joist, and I quote, masculine joist, to see what was once Manami. Quite strange occurrences that happened to these people. Megumi and her father flee their once pride and joy home, and to make matters worse, its decrepit look now removed its status as a national treasure, which further, kind of makes this a bit more sad. Well, at the end, that is the story of the wooden spirit. Now, as for theories on what Manami was, I tried looking into the yokai and stuff like that of Japanese mythology, and I couldn't really find much on weird wood spirits that like buildings. Couldn't find anything on those. So I still kind of assume that she's like a yokai, but really evil in that aspect. And I can't really think of a good aspect of this person. So to stay safe on that regard of not really knowing 100%, I would still assume that they probably are a yokai. But to be sure, I do not have enough information to say that 100%. So theories-wise, that's kinda it. But there is a statement at the end of the book where it said, the house is no longer the house that they grown up in. She lusted after the house, and the house lusted back, which is very strange, because in the end that would mean the house also has its own feelings, which, I mean, hey, anything's possible. It is Junji Ito, for all that I'm gonna give it credit for. It could be that, which that would be the most plain answer, straight to the point, no need for elaborations. It is that, and you could go with that one, or my theory of it being a form of yokai that I couldn't figure out. So the other one has more weight to it. But yeah, that's more or less my theories on it. And, well, as for rating the story, I'd have to give it a 5.5. It's more of the strange and weird of Junji Ito that you'll come to find out in the next few stories that I go over. Because Junji Ito, I've come to more realize, is not there for the immediate shock value of, man, that looks weird. It's more of the, like, slowly just sinking in kind of feel, which with the first one being, I'll put it up over there because I can't remember it at the moment, but the first story and Wooden Spirit, they have the same kind of, like, it's short and sweet, I guess. It's really to the point, and then it's over. Which is kind of sad for some of the books that he has actually put out. There are a lot of really good moments where when he gets the time for a full story, it is immaculate. The book, Liminal Zone, one of my favorite compilations of Junji Ito's works, and we will be getting to that one, and I am excited for that one, definitely. You know what? Even better. Would you like to see the next story in Fragments of Horror, which I promise you is really good for Fragments of Horror? The Red Turtleneck? Or would you like for me to start one of Junji Ito's other works? Like one of his other compilations of stories? You know, leave it down in the comments. And to anyone who this is the first video you saw of mine, I also have in the description, I will have the first video so you can, you know, understand what I gave for the rating of that one and other stuff. But, you know, as for recommending, it's a good grade. It's a quick read. Slide right on through it and you're on to the next one, which I'll be doing in a little while. So that's that. And all of that's to say, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed it, you can hit like, hit subscribe. As I've mentioned before, comment any of your opinions on either me going over the animated versions of Junji Ito's works, and also not just going straight through Fragments of Horror and just do a few other different compilations here and there and just kind of mix them all together, but I'll separate them into their own, like, playlist to, you know, save y'all time. And that's all. And goodbye.